So this is going to be the presidential prediction video. I already did a whole webinar on it where I essentially said that I think Obama is going to win. And this is, I'm going to go over the reasons that I think that he's going to win. This is just going to be a predictive video. So this is the chart of Obama, August 4th, 1961, 7:24 in Hawaii. So when you look at his planetary sequence right now, he's in Saturn dasa. Saturn for him is in his first house. It's his ruling planet, and it forms what's called Raja Yoga because it's the first house ruler in the first house, which is a very powerful yoga, which means it joins his power and accomplishments. And also Saturn is aspected by Mercury, which is the ninth house ruler. So you have the ninth house ruler aspecting the first house ruler, which also forms Raja Yoga. So this Saturn is very supported in this planetary cycle. He just went into a planetary cycle that's very strong. And in addition, it's very concentrated around Saturn. You see it's Saturn, Saturn. He went into it in July 2012. Now Saturn tends to delay things. It tends to make things happen slowly and even tend to push them down at first. And I'm recording this on October 23rd. So we just had the last debate last night. We've had the three debates, and during the debate cycle, Mitt Romney really closed the gap and caught up. And it's quite an even race right now. So in the web class that I did about a month ago, I predicted that Obama would win, but I also said at the very beginning, and I say it again now, make no mistake, either one of these men could win. It's absolutely the case. And like I said then, when it might seem like, well, how can astrology be accurate if you can't even predict the winner between two people? It's either one or the other. Why don't you know? Well, because astrology, if it would be valid at all, it would show the truth of what's going on. So it shows the truth of how close this is. It's not something removed from reality. It shows the truth of reality. So, of course, it shows things that are tight. It shows it's incredibly tight, and either one could win. Because the truth is, with these elections, even if between now and Election Day, let's say, one candidate makes a complete buffoon of himself, he's still going to probably get close to half the vote. Even if it comes out that one of the candidates has had extramarital affairs for the last 10 years, that candidate would still get about 48% of the vote. No matter what, people would still vote for him. So what we're jockeying for here is these slight margins of advantage. So both of these charts show where the next person could be president of the United States. Absolutely. So as astrologers, we're assessing very subtle things. So what I did in my webinar is I talked about these things in great detail. And but I also talked about their natal charts. I'm not gonna really do that. I'm just gonna show the timing and where we're at now and what the charts show and what I think is going to happen between now and then. So again, Obama is a Capricorn rising sign, and he's ruled by Saturn. He just started Saturn dasa, but Saturn is retrograde in his first. Retrograde planets tend to reverse things, so it could show a reversal. But retrograde is not necessarily difficult. It shows a strong concentration of energy, and his is very retrograde. It's opposite the sun. And it's aspected by Mercury, the ninth house ruler. Like I said, it forms Raja Yoga, which is very powerful to give results. Especially then you look at where it is in the sky, and if we look at the transits, this is where the planets are right now. Saturn is by transit in his 10th house, in his house of power, which this bodes very well for Election Day favoring Obama in this case, because it's going to be in the 10th house, which, if you remember, Obama's rising sign is here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The Sun and Saturn are in Obama's 10th house on Election Day. So that's very powerful for his Saturn to be very strong. And let me just make this, well, actually, I want to leave it here for a second. Here's Romney's chart. Now, Mitt Romney has a Taurus rising sign. His Jupiter, Moon in the 7th house. Saturn here. He's got Sun, Mercury, Mars in his 10th house in his natal chart, and Venus in his 9th house and his dasha cycle, he's in Sun Mercury. That's that's the cycle that he's in right now. So he's in the Sun Mercury dasha, and if you go back and look at his dashas, July 2008 is when he went into the Sun dasha, and that's right around the time when it was determined that he wasn't going to be the Republican nominee. So Sun dasha is the whole time that, for almost that whole time he's been planning to be the next president. This is all the time he's been plotting. Now he's in Sun Mercury, which he started on April 2012, and since then is when he got the nomination. So he's in Sun Mercury dasha. So we have to look at the dashas, we have to look at the nature of the planets. Of course, Sun and Mercury in his chart are very powerful. They also form what's called Raja Yoga. They're in his 10th house, very powerful in his natal chart. Sun rules the 4th house, it's in the 10th, but it's joined Mercury, which rules the 5th house. This is a trinal house ruler with an angular house ruler. Mercury rules the trinal house, the 5th, and it's with the Sun, the 4th house ruler. It's also with Mars, the 7th house ruler. So Mercury is a really powerful planet for Mitt Romney because it's his 5th house ruler joined 2 angle lords, joined the Sun and Mars. So this is why Mercury is so powerful for him, and Sun Mercury especially. Because the Sun, again, of course, it's the Sun, but it's in the 10th house of power, and it's joined Mercury. So Sun Mercury is especially really powerful for him. It's like his most powerful dasha. You'll see. And that's what you expect. These men are at the culmination of their power right now. So we have to look at election day and what's happening with these 2 men. So again, we just looked at Obama, and we saw that with Obama, his ruling planet, which is Saturn, and his dasha planet, which is Saturn, are both exalted in his 10th house. Again, that's very powerful. It's a concentration of power that is not seen in Romney's chart. This is why I said, based on that, I had a feeling Obama was going to win. Romney, it's Sun Mercury. That's his dasha. So when we look at the Sun Mercury, obviously it gives him a lot of power because it shows him at the height of his power right now. When we go to election day, though, okay, this is not election day. Let me go to election day. It's November 6th. So we'll see on election day. This is election day, November 6th, 2 weeks from today. I'm recording this on Tuesday, October 23rd. 2 weeks from today, we see the moon is here, but we still have the Sun is debilitated with Saturn in the 10th. Venus is also debilitated, and Mercury just turned retrograde. Let me go back a few hours. Mercury turns retrograde about 4 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. So this is 4 o'clock Pacific time on election day. Mercury is still moving direct. And then 4 o'clock Pacific time, or let's say by 5 o'clock Pacific time, Mercury is retrograde. So by 8 o'clock Eastern time, Mercury turns retrograde. This actually happened on election day 2000, and we had that recount. And that protracted recount. There could be on election day some delay in the results because Mercury turns retrograde. It's also in Romney's 7th house and over his debilitated moon and his moon-Jupiter conjunction. He's got moon-Jupiter Ketu in the 7th. Rahu, Mercury, Mars are all there on election day. And again, this can show power because it does form Raja Yogas by transit. Mars and Mercury in Romney's 7th house is a Raja Yoga by transit. And remember, Mercury is a powerful planet for Romney, and it's his secondary dasha lord. He's in Sun Mercury. So Mercury is direct, stationary retrograde on the election day, and it's forming a Raja Yoga with Mars. The orb is wide, but it's also joined debilitated Rahu. Again, there's what's called Neecha Bhanga here because debilitated Rahu's joined Mars, which is his ruler. So again, this is a lot of confusing, complicated, tangled up energy, which it's not clear to say whether it's going to help or hurt. But something is going to get reversed. So this is why it's hard to tell with Romney's, because if it's positive, then that could get reversed. If it's negative, then that could get reversed. So there's going to be a reversal around maybe 5 o'clock, around 8 o'clock Eastern time, relative to Romney. So it could maybe show that he was doing terribly, and then all of a sudden a state flips and changes, like maybe what happened with Bush in 2000, when Florida was actually declared for Al Gore earlier in the day. And then they switched it and said, no, Bush has actually won Florida, and turned the whole race around. Maybe we'll see some kind of reversal like that on Election Day with Mitt Romney. We just have these reports that Romney's son invested in a company that's going to be counting the votes in Ohio. Maybe we'll see Ohio flip. Maybe Ohio will have a change of heart. Ohio might change. Something may reverse. Perhaps in Romney's fortune, perhaps against him. I would tend to think that this retrograde might be in his favor because it's already a difficult and not very positive yoga. Mercury-Mars Raja Yoga is a hard one, especially for the Mercury, because Mercury is really not in good territory in Scorpio. And it's over Romney's debilitated moon. Again, in Romney's chart, this yoga comes at a place it gives Romney power, but it doesn't give benefit, because the moon is the third house ruler. Because the moon is the third house ruler, which is a willful, egoistic planet, and Jupiter is the 8th house ruler. And you see they're very close together, 4 degrees of Scorpio. When you look on the prajna of that day, Mercury goes retrograde at 10, so it had just gone past it. But the other thing is Rahu is right on, has just gone over Romney's moon. So that's already happened. But again, there's all of this energy with Romney is harder to read. So Romney is in Sun, Mercury. The Sun is debilitated by transit. So the Sun is debilitated, and the Sun became debilitated right when we had the second debate. So we've seen the debilitated Sun for Romney being apparent at the second debate. That night, when they had the town hall debate between Romney and Obama, the Sun became debilitated that night. That was the night that Obama came back and really kicked butt in that town hall meeting. Since the Sun has been debilitated, it's been to Obama's advantage, which is what I predicted. I predicted that the biggest problem for Romney was once the Sun became debilitated and Venus, his ruling planet, became debilitated, which it just did today, which is this day. Let me see. So this is the day, okay, like I said, 2 weeks. 1 day. Okay, so this is the day that I'm recording this. So you see, Venus just became debilitated, actually the 23rd. Yeah, so, Venus just became debilitated today on October 23rd. So we just had the last debate last night. So I said once Venus becomes debilitated and the Sun are debilitated, both of them, it's going to really hurt Romney. I thought that the debilitated Sun would hurt Romney more than Obama, and it definitely has. The Sun is debilitated for both of them. It's transit. It's in the sky, and it's joined Saturn. But it's a matter of which one is it going to help. And I said all along it's going to help Obama, and it did. Because Obama, again, he's ruled by Saturn, and this is happening in his 10th house. For Romney, it's happening in his 6th house. So this sign where Saturn and the Sun are debilitated here fall in the 6th house from Romney's ascendant. This is Romney's chart, his ascendant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is where the planets are now in the sky. And the Sun is going to be there through Election Day. So on Election Day, we're going to have debilitated Sun joined exalted Saturn. The Sun is Romney's dasha planet, and we've already seen, as soon as the Sun became debilitated, Obama started to rise again, because that was the night of the debate in the town hall, and by all consensus, he did much better in the foreign policy debate. The only thing that the other side is saying is that Romney didn't hurt himself, and he sort of crossed the threshold of looking like he could handle foreign policy, but nobody said that he won the debate. Frankly, he didn't, and in fact, he had some really bad moments. You have to be a real Romney sympathizer to not think he looked bad. Especially, Obama was totally in command. He's been the commander-in-chief. He's totally on top of all these policies, and Romney's just empty sniping about, we need to be stronger, but he has nothing. He offers nothing new. He really didn't offer anything substantive except looking like he could handle the job, which if you consider that not losing, then okay. But he hasn't gained anything since the Sun became debilitated. But the other big one is Venus debilitated. The first debate, Venus had already gone into Leo and gone into his 4th house. Now, the reason Venus is so important for Romney is it's his ruling planet. And this is the biggest reason why I thought Romney was not going to win, because not only is his dasha lord debilitated in the 6th, but his ruling planet, Venus, is debilitated. Obama's ruling planet on election day is exalted. Is exalted in the 10th with the sun. See? And Romney's ruling planet from here on out is going to be debilitated. Now, what does this mean? How do we see this tangibly? I'll tell you how. When Venus was in Leo, because again, it's his ruling planet, Venus is totally related to women. What's been the big gain that Romney has pulled off since that first debate? Has been his surprising credibility with women, with the female vote. I think from here on out, from, I say, October 23rd until Election Day, if Obama's smart, he's going to be hammering on women's issues, and I think women's issues, women's rights, are going to decide the election. I think it's going to swing back in the favor of Obama. And this is shown by Venus being debilitated. And, so Romney on Election Day, let's look at the upshot here. Romney on Election Day, his dasa lord is debilitated, the sun. His ruling planet is debilitated, Venus. His secondary lord is joined two malefics, although it does form a Raja Yoga with Mars. And it becomes retrograde later in the day. So Mercury, because he's in Sun Mercury, is forming Raja Yoga. So he does have a Raja Yoga here. But then it goes retrograde, but that's very ambiguous. The other thing is Romney does have Jupiter going through his first house, but it's retrograde. And Jupiter is also aspecting his ruling planet. Let's put this up to the to Election Day again. Okay, so on Election Day, Venus is very close to this. So this actually helps Romney. Here's how Romney could win. I'll tell you, because I'm saying both of them can win. I'll show you what makes Romney able to win. He's got his Lagna Lord, or his ruling planet Venus, is debilitated, but it still forms a Raja Yoga because it's an angle Lord in a trine. That's a Raja Yoga. It's a harsh one, but it doesn't matter. Results are different than feeling. I think we're going to see his degradation in the eyes of women, but he could still win because Venus is aspected by Jupiter. Here, it's forming a Raja Yoga, so he has Venus forming a Raja Yoga by transit, aspected by Jupiter. Mercury, Mars forming a Raja Yoga here as well, because Mercury's the 5th Lord in the 7th, join the 7th Lord. That's the Raja Yoga as well. And this is his Bhukti planet, which means his secondary Dasha Lord. So he's in Sun Mercury. Sun is debilitated, but Mercury is not. Mercury's forming a Raja Yoga with Mars. It's also forming Raja Yoga with Rahu, because it's a trine Lord joined Rahu in an angle. So Mercury also forms two Raja Yogas, but it's forming it with Rahu and Mars and Scorpio. And I'm going to say this right now. I think if Romney does win, there will absolutely be calls of deceit and fraud if he wins. This is what I think. I'm not saying because it's true. I'm not saying that's true, that there's going to be deceit, but I'm saying there will be speculation of deceit. There's already things that look fishy, like his son owning the voting machines in Ohio, especially if Romney wins Ohio and there's some like change of fortune. It could get really ugly. And there could also be legal. It could also be another thing to go to the courts. I'll tell you another reason why. Because of this retrograde Jupiter, which is the legal system, and Jupiter aspecting Mars by transit, and also Obama's ascendant. This is grace for Obama. Obama's ascendant is 24, and Jupiter right now is aspecting his ascendant. So this grace that we see Romney benefit from. See, here's the transit. Jupiter is 24. Jupiter's 20. Jupiter aspects these trinal houses, the same element. So Jupiter aspects 20 degrees of Virgo and 20 degrees of Capricorn. By transit, we have Jupiter aspecting Obama's ruling planet, Venus, and Obama's ascendant right now. So Jupiter's going over Obama's ascendant. I mean, it's actually retrograding away from it, but it's actually aspecting these planets in his first house, and it's also joined his moon. So Jupiter the proximity of Jupiter in both of these men's charts show how important it is. In the natal chart, Jupiter aspects Romney's Lagna Lord as well. You see, this is Romney's Venus is 15 Capricorn. Jupiter right now is aspecting Romney's ruling planet in his natal chart. This is why, as I say, you're going to see all over the place that both of these men could win. There's no question. And this one is really close because both of them have the karmas to win. Obama's is much simpler. This is why you can even see it in the race. And this is what's more important. Aside from whether my prediction is right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Both of them could win. I'm just trying to present the scenario. But the thing to realize is that you see the power in both of these men's chart, and you see how it's played out in the campaign. Romney has been, frankly, he has been all over the place. He changes his message all the time. He's back and forth. You see in his chart. Look in Romney's chart. He's got Mercury retrograde joins Sun and Mars in the 10th. He's got Jupiter, Moon, and K2 in the 7th. His power comes from these energies that are unstable at best. Not unstable like mentally unstable, but I mean hard to predict. And I mean, he's made so many he said so many things that are just flat out weird. He won't release his taxes, the 97 or 47% comment, all these other things, changing his positions all the time, even his selection of Paul Ryan as a candidate. I mean, it's just it's unpredictable. He's a really volatile candidate. I mean, it's hard to know who this man is still at this point. And it's still like that. And Obama, on the other hand, you know, and again, Sun, Mercury, with Mercury retrograde, this is his dasha cycle, Sun, Mercury. This is Romney's dasha, this retrograde Mercury, saying things, having to apologize, having to offer mea culpas or not. You know, people ask him for information and him not releasing it or whatever and things like that. Obama's very different. Saturn, steady, boom, just steady the course. He made a mistake. Obama has been very steady and even, and just saying we need to stay the course. Even his rhetoric, stay the course. Don't go backwards. Stay the course. Stay determined. Keep moving forward. All this is Obama's message. And you see when he was elected the first time, it was hope, Jupiter. Now it's stay the course, Saturn, stay the course. Keep moving forward. He just went into Saturn in July. His Saturn is exalted by transit. It's a very simple thing to see with Obama. You see it in the campaigns already, what I'm saying. My prediction is just which way I think this little bit of percentage point is going to carve up. It could go either way. My feeling is Obama's Saturn is much stronger. Well, I shouldn't say much stronger, but it's definitely more concentrated. And we've already seen the effects of what I thought was going to happen when the Sun became debilitated after that second debate. The night of the second debate, the Sun had just gone into this placement, which is Obama's 10th house and Romney's 6th house. And I said then, this is going to benefit Obama more. Now people say, well, what about the Nietzsche Banga because it's showing an exalted Saturn? Yes, but who is that going to benefit? That's the point. For Romney, it's a debilitated Sun in the 6th getting pushed down by Saturn. And it's Romney's dasha lord. Again, with astrology, with Vedic astrology, if you're not reading the dashas, you're just not doing it correctly. Everything isn't even. It's not just like, oh, the Sun. The Sun, especially in this case, is Romney's dasha lord. He's getting the karmas of the Sun now. And you've seen since the Sun became debilitated, he was at his height before that. He was leading in the polls before that. It's gotten less and less and less. Because after that first debate, he was as high as he was going to get. Why? Because the Sun was going through his 5th house and Venus was going through his 4th house in Leo. He looked like the king. And it was going, and then since then, the Sun, from his vantage point, moved from a place of power and creativity, which is the 5th house, to the 6th house, which is a place of subservience, service. Literally, the 6th house is the house of servants, of underlings. And frankly, in both of those debates, no matter how you look at it, he looked like Obama's like underling. Obama was like the voice of authority. He was in command both times. And he's like, look, I know you're trying to play on the big stage, but here's the way it goes. And only the most die-hard Romney supporters could have thought that he won both of those debates. He simply didn't. I'm not saying he lost them or he looked humiliated or whatever, but he did not look like he looked in the first one, where he looked in command. The last two, and frankly in the first he looked in command, but when you look at his facts, no matter how you look at it, it wasn't really necessarily that he won on substance. He won on style. And even Fox News said it, actually. I mean, even actually maybe Fox News didn't say it, but pretty much across the board, it wasn't really stated that he had a better command of the issues. It's just that Obama hardly showed up. He just kind of let him off the hook. And the last two, that didn't happen. He had a fight on his hands, and that's what the sixth house is about. He's got a fight on his hands. And since then, that's what happened. But as I say, as of yesterday, after the debate last night, the final debate, now Venus is going to be debilitated between now and Election Day. And I think you're going to see a steady demerit of the Romney-Ryan ticket, especially with women. This is what I think is going to happen. Based on the transits, when Venus went through Leo, he actually looked good in the eyes of women. He looked much more viable. But now I think you're going to start seeing some things come to light and much more scrutiny paid attention to these things. And Obama would be smart to hammer away on social issues, especially like abortion and overturning Roe v. Wade and stuff like that. You know, I don't care what people think. I mean, I can stand for what I stand for. You know, I think, whether they're right to life or not, Roe v. Wade is not about anyone's beliefs. It's about the right to a a procedure that's going to happen anyway. And an overwhelming majority of Americans think that women should have access to this medical procedure. To even be talking about overturning Roe v. Wade in 2012 it's hard to believe, really. It's hard to believe. And I think if Obama's smart, he would really, really, really drive this point home to women. Frankly, it's kind of hard for me to understand how women would want to vote for Romney. I mean, maybe I'm sure there's women who watch this who think that's a terribly, biased thing for me to say, but, I don't think Obama's been the greatest president either. I think Obama made a lot of mistakes, especially I think he's become a very divisive figure, and I think he was immature and burned a lot of political capital on things that did not serve everybody. I don't think he was nearly as good, obviously, as he said he would be, and he sold a lot of his constituents down the toilet, frankly. That's why a lot of people are really not happy with Obama either. And I think with the health care law, Obamacare, it was a good intention, but because it was so divisive in the country, it has not helped not only him, but the country on some level. And it's been difficult. But regardless of these things, certain things like certain social issues and, women's rights, and I mean, this conservatism of a 1950s era of Romney and Ryan coming out with all of these incredibly conservative, not even conservative, but backward thinking social policies toward women and the right to abortions and stuff. It's amazing to me that they've gotten anywhere near the popularity that they have. It goes to show how unpopular Obama is, frankly. So anyway, that's my personal comment on the whole thing. But besides that, either one of them can win. Either one of them can win, and I showed you how both of them can. With Obama, it's simple. That's Saturn in the 10th. We've already seen Romney become sort of deflated since the sun became debilitated in his 6th house and under the thumb of Saturn. And Venus now becoming debilitated, which is his ruling planet. Again, I think you're going to see him get less and less, not more and more, between now and Election Day. And I think social issues are going to hurt him, especially women's issues related to Venus. They're going to be scrutinized more, and women are going to start saying, you know what, maybe Obama hasn't been so great, and, this economy, this and that, but do we really want to go back to, like, someone who wants to appoint judges that are going to overturn a woman's right to have a clinical and safe abortion? I don't think we want to go there. And I think these things are going to get pondered with much more scrutiny now. And but again, he's got Jupiter aspecting his ruling planet on Election Day. Jupiter's also aspecting this Raj Yoga in his 7th house. I think there's a high possibility that there could be a surprising reversal on election night. And we'll see how that works. But hopefully we don't get into some kind of protracted, post-debate legal battle again. Could happen. But again, when you look just at the planets by transit on Election Day, Obama's dasha planet and ruling planet are exalted in the 10th. It's very solid. Romney's dasha planet, the sun, is debilitated. His ruling planet, Venus, is debilitated. His secondary dasha planet, Mercury, is participating in Raja Yogas, but it's with two malefics, retrograde planets. Plus, he's got a retrograde planet in his ascendant. This is Romney. Harder to say that that's going to be more beneficial. The last thing I have to say is the moon is the big trigger. And on election day, we got to look at the moon. Here it is. Of course, it goes right over Obama's 7th house and right over Obama's sun on election day. Right on over Obama's sun in the 7th. Now, it's Obama's 7th lord going over his 7th. So the transit of the moon favors Obama as well because it goes over his natal sun. For Romney, it goes through his 3rd house. It goes through his 3rd house. It's not really lighting much up for Romney. You could say it's opposite his Venus and all like that, but we read karmas from the ascendant. So, at least I do. Karmas that happen in a person's life are read from the ascendant. And so it's also going over Romney's Saturn, which is his 9th and 10th lord, but his Saturn is retrograde in the 3rd, and actually it goes over it directly the day before. And so that transit, by transit, you have to see that this is more favorable for Obama. It's going through his 7th house and over these planets that form Raja Yogas in his chart. Obama's got, this is a Raja Yoga. He's got the 5th lord in the 7th, and the moon is still in that Raja Yoga house. The day before election day, it actually hits it directly. It hits his Mercury, triggering that Raja Yoga. But then on election day, it goes over his sun. So this is a much more it's a much more inspired transit. It hits an angle, and also is opposite his ascendant and stuff like that. But the moon must be looked at to be more favorable from Obama's chart than from Romney's as well. This is why I'm saying I think why I think Obama is going to win, because things are much more concentrated around his Saturn and that steady approach. Even though it started with him being put down in that first debate, at least once the debate season started, that's a big part of Saturn. You come out looking bad, looking humble, but then you hang in there and you stay with it and you persevere, and that's what I think is happening. That's the other reason why I think I'm on track, is because the way the campaigns look and Obama's rhetoric about staying the course and moving forward and not giving up the fight, this is very Saturnish, as opposed to his first win, which was Jupiter, hope and belief. Romney has been herky-jerky all over the place, Sun, Mercury, especially as it relates to his chart. His Sun, Mercury retrograde, and Sun, Mars, he's got this very willful energy. And, especially since he's experiencing this Rahu transit this whole time, he's been candidate. It's been Rahu going through his 1st and 7th house, so he's been very unpredictable. And you see more of that, but again, unpredictability is often the hardest thing to predict astrologically. So it could happen. He's got these players are set up to also deliver, because this is a Raja Yoga in his 7th house with his secondary lord. His ruling planet is debilitated, but it does form a Raja Yoga, and it's aspected by Jupiter. So it could be, surprising events. But I'm going to say, my feeling is that if he does win, there's going to be speculation of voter fraud. I'm not going to comment whether I think it's true or not, but there's going to be speculation, especially because Rahu, Mars, and Mercury retrograde in Scorpio in his 7th house over his moon, because this is his chart, the same place. He's got Moon, Ketu, Jupiter there, so it could definitely show that. So this is my prediction, so to speak. I don't have time to write everything up. I know some astrologers, they've written everything out. I don't have the time, so I make this video because it allows me to just present the case like that. So I hope this was helpful. I know it was advanced. It wasn't done for beginners, but hopefully a lot of people can benefit from seeing this as well.